Um, Again, we take few moments to generate right motivations, good motivations. We can think the purpose of my life is not only to be concerned with myself alone, but to be help and benefit to all most kind mother sentient beings from whom we receive all the temporary and ultimate happiness. From whom we receive all the temporary ultimate happiness. You know, when we are not feeling well, sick, we receive the help from others, doctor, nurse, um, other psychologists, or people taking care of us. When we are hungry and thirsty, the food that we rely on, we also receive from others directly, indirectly. The transportation that make us possible to travel from place to place easily. Again, all we are able to do that because of, again, contributions of others that create transportations, the road and everything. The education that we receive through the kindness of all our teachers from our kindergarten till our colleges, all the teachers, all the people who work in the schools, colleges, all the Dharma knowledge we receive, again, through the kindness of all the teachers from whom we study and learn, from all the books that has been written, printed, distributed by so many different beings, and from all the centers that provide the place for us to study, meditate, and practice. And also the ultimate happiness of liberation and fully enlightenment. We cannot achieve that without depending on, relying on the kindness of others. Therefore, every temporary and ultimate happiness we experience, enjoy, which we will be experiencing, which we will enjoy in the future, they all come through the contributions of others, directly, indirectly. By relying, it comes through relying on others, the kindness of others. So therefore, it seems totally selfish and not right and proper to totally neglect and ignore the well-being of others, pretending they do not exist, their suffering do not exist, and only think of ourselves. Therefore, now when I have this precious human life, met the Dharma, when I know a little bit, I'm going to try as much as possible to be as benefit and help to others, not only just myself, but to others as much as possible, directly, indirectly. And in order to be more helpful, beneficial to others and oneself, I need to transform and improve my own mind, become more enlightened with more wisdom, compassion. And for that, I need to practice, meditate correctly, continuously. For that, I need to be reminded of those practice all the time. Therefore, I'm going to listen to the talk so that I can apply whatever I find helpful, beneficial in those talks. And may us coming here together here to listen, discussions, reflection, contemplation, may all of these become cause and conditions to achieve fully awakened state. So not only we can be help, but to be greatest help, and not only for few, but for each and every sentient beings. Sangye chodan soge chonam la changju badu dane kyapso che dagi jinso gi be sonam gi dola penje sangye duba sho sangye chodan soge chonam la changju badu dane kyapso che dagi jinso gi be sonam gi dola penje sangye duba sho sangye chodan soge chonam la Chanchu padu dane kyapsoch dagi jinso ki beso nam ki dola penje sangye do parasho. So today's talk, this morning talk, mind over body. Uh, Before we understand and talk a little bit mind over body, first let us, first I want to introduce what mind is from Buddhist view without going in much details, but just basic introductions. Um, in order to understand how the mind is more powerful or over the body, um, first we have to understand what the mind is. And there might be different um, view, understanding of what mind is, but from Buddhist uh, point of view, um, basically in Buddhism, Buddhist psychology or Buddhist studies of the mind, it is described, mind is not physical, not a matter, you know, mind do not have any kind of shape, color, like physical matters, nor it doesn't have any kind of size, you know, different size, uh, like in physical matters, and is a pure experience or awareness that has the qualities of functionings of to be able to reflect the objects. It's like the mirror, and the mirror has this ability or function of to reflect the object into that mirror. Same way, external, internal objects, reflect into that mind, and that mind has the functionings or the ability to know the objects or perceive the object or be aware of the objects. The perception. Uh, uh, the perception of the object could be right or wrong, but it has that ability to perceive or apprehend the objects, to reflect the object in that and to perceive. Um, and it is so, mm, and it is explained the very fundamental, basic nature of our mind is pure, undiluted, unpolluted in its nature, luminous and pure, luminous awareness is explained. The fundamental basic nature of the mind is like the clear blue sky, and all those afflictive emotions, negative emotions, and all these disturbing thoughts, all they are like temporary, like the clouds that obscure the blue sky. But the basic nature of blue sky is not obscured by those clouds in its nature, because it is not, even though it is obscured now, but it is only temporary. It is not obscure in its nature, and therefore those clouds can be cleared away, and to see that the blue sky. And because of that, because even though our mind might be obscured now by those different uh, negative emotions, such as anger, resentment, grudges, strong attachment, desire, jealousy, pride, um, selfish attitude, all different, but they all are temporary, like the cloud, and those all can be clear, and then to be able to see the blue sky, and in same way to experience your nature of the mind without any of those obscurations, and actualize that nature mind. And when you are able to do that, when you have been able to clear all these temporary clouds of those afflictive emotion, then that is when um, you achieve, you know, liberations. When your mind's free from that, when your mind is free from those temporary afflictive emotions, and because of that, and because of that, the basic on being that, and on top of that, then there is the wisdom realizing emptiness and many others. Then in Buddhism, it explained that total liberation or nirvana or is possible. meaning that anyone can achieve because we have that, everyone has that mind. Mm, So, so that is the kind of, and then, just like physical matters, there are so many different physical matters. Same in the mind is a big, it has many different, um, and there are many different way of kind of dividing in different categories to understand the mind. One way of dividing in different categories, what we call primary mind and mental factors. And within the mental factors, um, it talk about 51 mental factors. According to slightly different Buddhist scriptures, sometimes the number might be slightly different, but in many of them, it's the 51 mental factors. Within those 51 mental factors, some of them are virtuous mind, some of them are non-virtuous mind, some of them are neutral mind, mental factors. And within the primary mind, then they talk about, you know, sensory consciousness and mental consciousness. The five sensory consciousness, eye consciousness, ear consciousness, which is able to hear, nose consciousness, um, to smell, uh, the, uh, um, the mouth mm, consciousness to taste, and bodily consciousness, and then mental consciousness. There is that is one way of understanding of different categories, and then also in the Vajrayana teachings, it also explains the mind in terms of kind of three categories: gross mind, subtle mind, more subtle mind. So within the gross mind, all our perceptions and all these thoughts, you know, um, 80 thoughts are part of the grocery mind. And then there are subtle mind of white appearance, red appearance, dark appearance, and then more subtle mind, clear light mind. So there is, as we spoke on a Friday evening, there is a, so that is a little bit on mind, okay? So I don't need to go details in that. That is just basic kind of uh, introductions, to a little bit to the mind, the nature of mind, what is mind from Buddhist point of view. Uh, so from Buddhist point of view, the mind is different from the brain or even the function of the brain. There is a correlation between the mind and the body. There is no doubt. It is also explained in the Buddhist scriptures. There's correlation between the mind and the body. As we talked on Friday, because of that, the body can affect mind, the mind can affect your body. Because they are not isolated, because there is correlationship between the body and the mind. Um, so therefore, definitely, there is uh, a relation between the mind and the brain and the function of brain. But the mind is not same as the brain itself or the functional brain itself. It's a separate. And so when we talk about three level of the mind, gross, subtle, more subtle level, it seems when it comes to the gross level of the mind, such as our sense perceptions and such as our gross thoughts, conceptions, it has a strong connections with our brain or function of the brain. You know, when there is something damaged in some part of your brain, then it affects your sense faculties. And because it affects your sense faculty, then it affects the sense consciousness that is dependent on that sense faculties. For the eye sense consciousness to perceive the objects, the shape, color of that, it depends on the eye sense faculties. And that is very much seems relation with the brain in that. And so when there is a damage to a certain part of the brain, then it has some damage to the sense faculty, and because of that, then you have problem with seeing. Same with hearing, smelling, and tasting, bodily feelings. Those sense consciousness are very much dependent to be able to perceive the objects. It depends on the sense faculties, and those sense faculties are very much um, they are kind of what do you call subtle, very subtle physical matter that is kind of like connection between the consciousness and the objects, you know. And so that is, but when it comes to the subtle consciousness and more subtle consciousness, then it doesn't seem to have much relationship with the brain or brain functionings. Even when your brain's dead and your brain doesn't function anymore, still one can have those subtle and more subtle mind. One cannot, at that time, one cannot have the gross mind. The gross mind, because it's very dependent on those, so it ceases. Once your um, brain is dead, once your functioning of brain is dead, then your sense faculty doesn't function anymore. You cannot see, hear, smell, that feel, that, not only that your memories and all those gross consciousness, that we call eddy gross consciousness, and those also cease, so they don't. But still, it is possible, even after the brain dead, clinically dead. Clinically is declared dead when someone's brain stop functioning. That, but still, someone could have the subtle and more subtle mind. From Buddhist point of view, yes, it's possible. And there is after someone die and clinically declare as a dead, but still who remain in meditations, some of them for a week, some of them month. In Tibetan, we call tuktam. And there have been, not only in the past in Tibet, but even in recent times, after they came into exile, there has been many teachers who were in those state. Some of them 21 days, some of them 2 weeks, some of them 10 days. And in such state, normally, you know, when someone die, and especially when you are in a condition where it's very hot and humid, you know, your body start to decay. You cannot keep it undecaying for a long time unless you give some kind of chemicals. Of course, with chemicals intervention, you can keep it. But without that, the body will decay. But in those meditators, without interventions of anything externally, even in a very hot and humid weather like in South India, The body remain undecay for 21 days, one of the teachers. No smelling, not decaying. Uh, I personally didn't see it, but those they said the brightness in there is even more better than when they're alive. You know. So what make it possible? What make it keeps that body from not decaying even after all these days without any external interventions? And the Buddhist, especially from Vajrayana Buddhist view, is because he or she is still in that more subtle mind, and that more subtle mind still not left the body. Because the more subtle mind, clearer mind, hasn't left the body, therefore that is what it keeps that body from decaying. The moment that body leaves, the subtle and more subtle mind leaves, not only gross mind, but subtle and more subtle, then body started to decay and smell and all of that, unless you intervene with some kind of external chemicals and like that. And it's not just instant with one person, it has with many teachers. Some of them have been documented, some of them have not been documented. I think there is a one is interesting. I don't know. I found before, but now when you Google, is you cannot find even with the same what you found before. Sometime I saw there is a one documented that happened in New Zealand. One teacher's um, Thubten Rinpoche, and after he passed away, um, and it was documented by a television journalist. He was um, visiting at the very beginning, and then understanding the nature of the body and everything, how many days it has been, asking people who are taking care, and then asking different people who manage dead bodies and all of that. And so and then again after many days, after going and again trying to see the what. So anyway, that seems to be one of interesting documented um, of such events. Um, that was in New Zealand, but also in one of the Gandhi Tipa. I think he was the 100 Gandhi Tipa in South India. And many Indian doctors came and they did a lot of trying to understand. And when the media asked, journalists, media asked those who did the doctors who came and trying to see that, they didn't have explanations. They, at this point, they said they don't know how it is possible. How it is possible someone's body without any external intervention, even after many weeks, that seems so fresh, like alive, someone who is still alive, fresh and very radiating, and that undecaying. For them, they said they don't know how it is possible. They cannot explain, but they did see this. And so that is from Vajrayana Buddhist point of view, that is the view is because the more subtle consciousness is still there. The more subtle consciousness hasn't left the body. The meditator has used that more subtle mind to meditate with that mind. And so as long as they remain, that is. And so what if that's the case, then what it shows is there's no more, the brain is dead, there's no more functioning of the brain, but still there's consciousness. So that, if that is the case, then it explains the mind is neither the brain or the functional brain is something else than that. And also, I mean, I don't know where I can find. I have somewhere, but there are also medical research. One of the doctors and their team did over many countries, over 14 different hospital, over 2,000 different patients who had near death experiences, who were dying and then came out of that. And and according to that research or their finding, you know, of course they don't come to the conclusion at the moment, but there was a caution mark. There is a possibility of consciousness after death. You know, so that is what the modern research science, uh, uh, you know, some of them, especially those who did, they're starting to caution maybe there is a consciousness that continue after the death. They might not agree at this point with what Buddhist says, but there is starting to have some conversations, um, some conversations and more research and caution mark in that, you know. And because in that they have stories of patients, who was dying on the, on the laboratories, and the operations lab, and the patient was blinded, everything's, and there's no way the patient could see what was going here. But the patients, when they came out of that, they described exactly every details, who was passing in surgery, who was passing, who was telling what, everything details. It's not someone just hallucinating, you know, where you hallucinate now, or you say, I saw this or I saw that. It could be right, wrong. It's hard to know whether they are hallucinating or really they saw it or really that happened. But when someone described that exactly, and they were shocked, they were amazed. How could that be? You know. So through those research, is also those research seems to indicate more of that. So anyway, I think I was talking about because of the mind not being a physical matter from Buddhist point of view, and different type of mind, and how especially the more subtle mind does not depend or rely on the brain functionings, even though gross mind have strong relation with that, but not the more subtle mind. So I think just to give little before we go in the mind over the body. So just to have a little bit what the mind is from Buddhist point of view, you know, and from the science where they are, at this point, um, and so in Buddhism, even though there is a correlation between the mind and body, especially the gross level of the mind body, but the mind is much more powerful than the body, the physical matter, and the mind is more important and more powerful. So in Buddhist studies, the focus has always been the mind. They were not so interested in physical studies, physical world, even though there are some Buddhist writings from earliest, about physical world and physical matters. But that is never been focus. The focus always been on the mind and different mental state, emotions, the mind itself, and that has been the main focus of their studies, um, because they see that is more important for the well-being and happiness of the sentient beings. Mm. Understanding and cultivating the right mind and eliminate the wrong mind or the distracted mind. Uh, One, it makes sense if the mind is non-physical, non-matter, then the potential is limitless. When it comes to physical matter, you know, we can improve. There is always there is always scope to improve, but it wouldn't be unlimited. Still, there will be limitations. When it comes to the mind, because it's non-physical, non-matter, there's no limitations. The potential is unlimited. No matter how, no matter how subtle the physical matter might be, even the sound or the wave of the light, whatever, even that can be abstracted by some others energy, some other matter. But when it comes to mind, mind can travel all over without any abstractions. Mind can travel anywhere without any abstractions. The light cannot travel anywhere. Even in some cases, they can stop from traveling it, with certain um, objects. Um, so from that, we can understand the body, which is made of physical matter, is limited. The potentials, in a way, is limited. But the mind, that is non-physical, non-matter, the potential is unlimited. Um, and because of that unlimited potentials, so therefore, then it is described, that how our mind can develop, you know, limitlessly, even just with the wisdom realizing the, let's say, emptiness reality, how that can, when you train through practice meditations, how it can, from having understanding realizations, you know, through hearing, how we can improve through reflections, and then again improve through meditations. Within the meditation, at the very beginning, how our realizations with the inference, reasoning, logics, and then how that it through meditation again, how we can improve it to non-inference, direct experience, and through that experience again, how it can develop and eventually become fully awakened without any limitations. And that would be same with any different state of, those different realization from how it can develop into this limitless state of mind. Mm. And within the mind, as I mentioned, when we talk about some primary mind, I talk about the sensory mind or sensory consciousness and mental consciousness. Within that, the mental consciousness is more powerful than sensory consciousness. So the mental consciousness, you know, is more powerful than sense consciousness. The mental consciousness can overpower the sensory consciousness or sensory feelings that is experienced by sensory consciousness. Um, for example, in a nice weather, warm weather, you might be on the outside beach, your favorite beach, you know, warm, experiencing, you know, nice feeling, bodily warmness, you know, um, enjoying the very nice view of the spacious, um, beautiful blue oceans, you know. Maybe you might be uh, enjoying the sound of the oceans, the waves, or you might be listening to some of your favorite music, you know. You might be ordering your favorite food, tasting, enjoying very much. So on sensitive level, your sense consciousness is enjoying all of that, feeling that all of that. Suddenly something happens, something triggers, or you hear something and your mind disturbed. Or you see something, or someone says something, or someone does something, it triggers your mind. Your mind is very disturbed, agitated. When your mind is disturbed, agitated, that is a that is not sensory, that is the mental consciousness now. So now the mental consciousness has been, one of mental consciousness has been activated very strongly. And now everything that you were enjoying before, you don't enjoy anymore. You know, the warmness that you are enjoying, you don't feel any more of that enjoy, the joyfulness. The food that you are tasting so delicious now doesn't taste anymore same way. The beautiful, this blue spacious that you are seeing beautiful, now you don't see that. Why? In a moment, everything changed. You don't feel the same joy with your sensory that you are feeling that because in that very moment, there was one mental consciousness that manifested very strongly and that overwhelmed those sensory consciousness and the feeling. It just shows how powerful the mental consciousness is. It's more powerful than the sensory consciousness, the sensory perceptions. That is our experience. And that could be same with other way around, you know. The weather is not so good, it's your body feel a little bit kind of cool, a little bit kind of, not warm, little cold. Food might not be the con- best qualities, you know. All this on sensory level, you might not have a kind of extremely pleasant feeling, but your mind is very content, satisfied, and happy. And because of that, all this sensory uh, conscious and that experience and whatever, little bit of discomfort, whatever, it doesn't bother you, doesn't make you unhappy, miserable. Why? Because strong mental state, such as strong mind of contentment, satisfaction, joy, happiness, or some other wisdom, compassion that is very strong and it is manifesting strong. And so all this doesn't bother you. That is the power of the mental state, the power of the mental state. So the mental state overpowering even the sense consciousness. And of course, it power it overpower the body. And I give you one example of my own experience, not through meditations, but you know, um, at the very beginning when I was starting to travel and take flight, I had horrible experiences. You know, each time I get into the plane, I feel sick, nauseous. There's some kind of smell or something. I don't know exactly. The moment I get into the, I also had that experience also with a certain car. You know, in India, there is a ordinary, in South India, we have the public cheap transportation rate, which we travel with. And then there was a luxury Volvo, you know, with air conditions, everything's. But that the luxury, when I get in, I get sick. There's some kind of smell or something. The window closed, something. I don't know. There's something. The cheap one, ordinary, the public, the normal one, I don't have problem. You know, so similarly, that is how I felt same when I was flying. The moment I get into that, I started to feel nauseous. And then when they serve the food, when I smell the food, it make worse. It make worse. So I don't want to eat. You know, I don't feel like I want to eat it, you know. And even just the smell make me very bad, you know. And so that was my kind of in the very beginning, and you know. And at the very beginning I thought, oh maybe I'm not used to this smell or fuel that they use in plane. Maybe there's something to do with that. Or maybe it is something to do with, I don't know, altitude or something. Uh, I thought maybe there's something external factors that is making me nauseous and all of that. And I thought, oh, maybe with the time, your body get used to it, your body adjusts to it, you know, maybe it will be okay. But it went long time and still didn't improve at all, you know. And I was trying to just contemplate what it might be, you know, what it might be, why everyone seems to enjoy their flight, enjoy their food. Here I am, you know, that uh, feel physically unwell. And suddenly, one day, I remember my first flight. Um, I went from India to Nepal with my teacher, who was at that time in Sera. So he was going to Nepal to do some fundraising for to build a temple in India. So I went to help him with him. And so from the monastery to the airport, we had to drive 6, 7 hours, Bangalore. And then that day I was not feeling well. I don't know exactly what happened, but I was throwing up. I was having stomach problems. So the whole journey in the car was not great. You know, I was feeling bad. And of course, then with flu. And so, and then suddenly when I remember that, I thought it was all in my mind. I said, because of my memory of that, even though I don't remember consciously, but there is something maybe on subconscious level. The moment I enter the plane, I'm on subconscious level. I'm remembering my first experience of this horrible because I was not feeling so well that way. It came in my mind. Oh, maybe it's not out there. It's in my mind. And once I remember that, oh, it is because of that. Maybe it is in my mind. So then, I say, oh, it is all in my mind. Trying to convince myself once I remember that. And that flight was better, better. And that flight was better. It gave me more confidence. And then it make me absolutely it is in my mind. There's nothing external. It's all in my mind. And when I am able to convince myself and have confidence in that, the next flight I didn't have a problem. And since then I never had that problem. So at the very beginning I thought it was something external, physical, you know, but actually it's a mind because even though I don't recollect or I don't remember consciously, but I think on deep there is some subconscious level. I think when I go in the plane, it kind of go back to that memory, and somehow that plays a role in that. So physically, I was physically feeling unwell, miserable, sick, you can say, and not necessarily because of the external condition, because of my mind, of some kind of the memory of the past. And I was able to solve that, even though this physically feeling nauseous, able to heal that, able to overcome that by not changing any external things, by changing my mind. I didn't do anything physical to get over it. I just had changed my perceptions, my mind, and that is clear signs to me the power of the mind over your physical, your body. You know, the power of mind to heal, even that, even that kind of physically feeling nauseous and all of that due to certain state of mind, and then healing that even physically nauseous by changing that perception, that mind through the power of the mind. I also notice quite often, I like to hike, and sometimes when you go to a hike, long hike, you know, sometimes you have blister, you know, I've had a few times quite because maybe the shoes was not right, maybe or something. And sometime after some time, I think maybe I have some problem with my arch, and so then also sometime I have pain, mostly in the middle of that. And I've also noticed when I focus so much on that pain, think and focus on that, the pain is more strong. So sometimes, so I intentionally distract myself, my mind, distract my mind self, and then take some other places, contemplate and think something else, contemplate on something else, and not focus on the pain. When I'm able to do that, when I don't focus, I don't feel the pain so much. I've nothing done physically to change it, to 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 lessen the pain on physical level, but just that my mind, I take that my mind to somewhere else and not focus on that. And when I am able to do that and I'm not focused on that, then I feel less pain. And then sometimes your mind goes, and then I know that I'm going to feel more pain because now my mind is focused on that, and it does. Again, I feel that is the power of the mind. On physical level, how much you experience pain or not, it also depends on your mental state. Quite, it also has on mental level too. You know, and as we discussed on Friday, as one of the conversations I with my friend, sometimes it's our mind that label this is a pain, this is a problem, this is a illness, this is sickness, and when you label that and when you feel that is it in your mind, oh, I'm sick, then you feel more sick. You feel more sick. But when your mind have different perspective, and change that perspective, you know, I'm not sick. Maybe I'm not feeling, how you use your label, how you use it, you know, there's little discomfort, but not sick, you know, there's a little bit discomfort, but not sick. Even just that have different label that I'm sick or I'm feeling a little bit, you know, there's a little bit discomfort. There's a difference. So again, you know, when we mind level is a sick, and when we see I'm sick and I'm not bad and all of well and all of that, then you start to feel more of that. You start to feel more sick. Check it out. Check it out. It's interesting. You know, on physical level, it might not have changed much, but that how you feel it. How you feel about that. You know, um, and again, it is like we can take examples of some examples. Sometimes I've noticed and I've heard, and also sometimes I've also noticed in the monastery sometime too. You know, when we talk about cancer, a lot of fear, people think there's no solutions. It's a death. Cancer is related, people kind of relate with death, you know, especially in certain places where they don't have same treatments or same diagnose. And where that is case for much because they don't have the medicine, everything like that, and diagnose and that. And so even though they might have been having a cancer, but they are not aware they are having cancer. They don't know they are having this disease cancer. They go doctor and they diagnose, maybe because they were feeling a little bit uncomfortable or maybe just normal checkup, whatever. And then they diagnose it as cancer. And the moment they say cancer, and some people who in their mind, the cancer, they relate with the death, they change very quickly within the weeks and months because of their mind. Now I have cancer. Now I'm going to die. They lose hope, give up hope. And because that mental state, that there's no hope, that I'm not going to survive, I'm not going to make it, you know, I'm going to die for sure because of this illness. And that, just that mental state, sometimes we have seen people from seemingly no problem, just normal, then suddenly within very short period, totally, you know, so it's the mind. That mind has contributed a lot. How it got bad so quickly, how it deteriorated so quickly, you know. when they didn't know, even though physically they have that illness, and even when they didn't know that it was they have cancer, even though they might have some discomfort here and there, feeling a little bit discomfort here and there, but they didn't know it was cancer, and so therefore they didn't think, they didn't lose hope, they didn't think that I'm going to die because of this feeling of discomfort, because of this, whatever that problem is. And so there is more kind of positive outlook, more hope, less negative. And because of that, even they can deteriorate and eventually they might, but it doesn't deteriorate so quickly in such dramatic way so quickly. But when they have that mental state, it changes so quickly, so quickly. So it is not just only the physical, the bodies, the cancers, cells, whatever that is, but also the mind play a huge role. How strong, how quickly it can deteriorate or not. Same way, it also can affect how quickly you can recover from your treatment or not. Even with the same physical, even with the same treatment, external treatment, cure, your state of mind can affect how that responds, whether it's going to respond well, whether it's going to respond well quickly or not. It so much depend on mental state of that patient. Power of the mind, the power of the mind, you know, the power of the mind over the body, the physical, you know. And also we hear, probably people have seen here, sometimes people who are dying, you know, on their deathbed, and some people, they want to see their children's friends before they die, they very much want to do that. And then, they're waiting for them, and sometimes they could keep on going for days, weeks, months. And once whoever they need to see comes, visit, see it, when they see it, then they just go. So what keep them for days, weeks, months is that mind, the hope and the wish, and that hope wanting to see for the last time, or to hope to see last time and say goodbye, or whatever unsolved, whatever they want to do, the last thing. And with that strong mind, that keep them, once that is done, and one they don't have that more anymore, that mind, that strong, that mind, the body is already ready to go a long time ago. And so all when we look all this different, you know, um, instance or the experiences or conditions, it is very clear the mind is more powerful than the body. The mind has these incredible powerful potentials, you know, to overpower the mind, the body, uh, the physical body. And so, in terms of healing, that is the key. Not only we need to take care of, you know, when we're physically not feeling well, not only we need to take care of it by whatever treatment, cure, possibility, but more than that, we have to work with our mind. Working with your mind, so important, you know. And one of the problem with our modern medicine is there is not so much emphasis on the working with the mind, you know. So, of course, you cannot ignore and neglect the external cure or treatments when there is possible and when there is cure, and that at the same time, is more important to work with one's mind, um, to heal and to heal quickly, to heal better, and not only heal from the physical pain, but also to keep positive state of mind all the time. And that's positive state of mind that can help us in so many different ways. And same thing, I have friends, who have problem with their diabetes or high blood sugars. Again, they notice when their mind is agitated, disturbed, it goes up. When their mind is more calm, peaceful, it remains more normal. And because they monitor immediately after, um, you know, and even recently, when I was in Nepal, and my younger brother has also diabetes, and one morning, we monitored and his level has gone almost 200 over the normal. And it was nothing to do with the diet. It was nothing, it was to do with his state of mind, stress. Because in the middle of the night, he got a phone that there was a fire in one of his um, building. Um, so of course, he had to go there, check it, and take care of that. So he has been stressful. He has been stressful for a few hours of trying to work with that, trying to take care of that fire that started by some electricity inside. And that was very clear. It wasn't the diet, it wasn't anything, but it was the stress that make his blood sugar go so high, so high. So again, these are clear, when your mental state is stressed out or agitated, disturbed, angry, so on, it goes up. It affects your physical well-being. It go up. When you are able to keep your mind calm, more peaceful, less stress out, less fear, less worry, less anger, you can keep more normal, better physically. You know, um, so it is not only the diet, it is not only the physical movement. Of course, those has effect. How whether your blood sugar or yeah, the sugar level, blood level goes up and down, whether you have done enough exercise or not, whether you have moved enough or not, or what kind of diet you took it. That had, but not. It is not only that. The mind, and when he eats something, maybe, not the right diet, it increased, but not that to that level that he had during that day, and that was because of the stress. And also there is enough research and all of that to show, when our mind is agitated and disturbed by different things, especially, such as anger and resentment and hatred and that rages and so forth, how that can affect our heart-related illness. One can have heart attack, chronic, no, no, heart attacks, and so forth, So, um, On other hand, you know, when you are able to keep your mind positive, calm, peaceful, then it can heal. Um, there are um, stories of, you know, in Tibet, I guess maybe around 11, 12, 13th centuries when the Kadamba tradition started. It is mentioned that one time the leprosy was very spread, in Tibet at that time, you know, and so during that time, the teachers, the masters, when people came to see them, asked for their guidance and advice. So one of the things they give, certain practice of tonglen, taking and giving, the practice of one of the powerful practice of lojong or thought transformations, and one of those practice is taking on other sufferings on yourself, cause suffering and cause of suffering through visualizations and feelings, and then giving your own happiness and positive and all goodness, sending and giving to others. And it mentioned through such practice, many of them cure of leprosy. And because of that, that practice became the practice of leprosy at a certain time in Tibet. It almost became like the medicine. It doesn't mean that everyone was cured of that. Everyone who did, I think maybe there need to be many other conditions, karma and many other conditions. But many of them were cured of that practice. And because of that, it became very popular practice at that time. And it almost became the practice for the leprosy patients. And then there are also stories of, people, who have cancer or other illness, and they took all kind of different treatments. Nothing seemed to cure, help, you know, and they went and saw some teachers and to to seek their advice, guidance, and some of them were giving some different practices. Some of them the mind trainings that lodge the Tonglen they're taking and giving, and some of them giving some other practices. And again, some of them got cured from those practices, you know, even though they were not unable to cure by the medicines, um, but they were able to cure from that, you know. So there is a book by Lama Soba called Ultimate Healing, and in that book, Ultimate Healing, at the very beginning, he talked about some of the stories of those people that happened, that he knew people, you know, who were cured of their different illness through those different. Um, and again, that is when you train and when you work with your mind, and when you started to, through practice and through working that mind, you started to have less fear about the illness itself, less worry, less fear, more accepting of that, that is part of the online practice, not only you are accepting your own suffering and you are okay, but on top of that, you are ready to take other suffering on yourself, you know. Not only I'm accepting these sufferings and willing to deal with that and willing to go through that, but on top of that, that willing to take other suffering on yourself. That kind of courage, confidence, courage, and that kind of compassion, and that kind of strong mind, strength. When you have that kind of strong mind and strength and less fear, less worry, but instead that kind of very strong mind, confidence, courageous, and love, compassions, that is what help to heal of that. To be because as we mentioned before, on the other side, when there is too much fear and worry, um, and about the illness, about your own situation, when there is too much fear and worry and negative and hopeless and so on, it's going to affect you from to deteriorate. On the other hand, when you have that opposite state of mind, it helps you to recover and to heal. You know, so therefore, you know, through different practice meditations, whether it's the Tonglen meditations, whether it's a meditation on emptiness, whether it's a meditations on, like healing that we did, using, contemplations, visualizations, and the sound, the mantras, through those different technique, different meditations, you work with your mind, and when with your mind, and when you there is transformation in your mind, that can affect not only on your mind or emotional level, also on physical level as well. And so therefore is power is the mind is more powerful than, you know, physically you can be very healthy, but emotionally you can be very disturbed, you know. So physical healthy doesn't always necessarily solve your emotional health, to improve your emotional health and mental state, On the other hand, when you have a, you know, positive mind and healthy mind, then it can affect not only your mind, your emotional well-being, and it also affects your physical well-being. And so therefore, the power of the mind over the body, that is the power. The mind is more powerful than the body itself. The mind has much more power, unlimited potential to heal the mind itself, the emotion itself, and the physical body as well. Um, and so therefore, um, and as we did this healing meditation with the visualization, and that is one of the things, we did during the meditation, important to be really being cured in that moment, really having that confidence and belief that it has been completely cured. So with through such training your mind slowly, slowly, you have less fear of that, less worry of that, and less feeling I'm sick and feel miserable about that. And when there is a transformation in that mind, then also it started to have better result as well. Okay, so any questions? Yes, okay, I see one, two, three here. Yes, yes, please, we can start from here. Mm-hmm. By, do you know by whom? Okay, so title is called Tuktam? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, maybe I will check it. I've seen the one cover by the New Zealand TV journalist. I think it was around 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for sharing. I will look for it. Yes, then we come this way. Hmm. Yeah. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. No, that make difference. That make difference. When you. Hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that was same thing that I was sharing the story of my conversation with one of my friends on Friday evening. When we had conversation, when he's there, how you are doing, and I said, "Oh, everything's fine except I have this allergy." And he's, "Oh, allergies and flu or the cold doesn't count as sickness." And so that kind of attitude, is nothing so serious or big deal. And so if you see it's just like, then you don't feel the moment in our minds that I'm sick, you know, then you feel more than actually. And when you say, "Oh, it's just a flu, just something like that, or it's just an allergy," it can have even though it might not have immediate kind of effect on physical level, but on mental level, it can have a different effect. How how you feel about that. So, yeah, yes. Hmm. 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 Yeah, I hope. I wish I have the right answer, you know. But unfortunately, I don't know. Maybe you could try different medications, Tibetan medicines, Ayurvedic, which are known less side effect, and I don't know whether those help, but at least those are the options, and try and see whether there is any that can be helpful, that can be able to reduce the pain, the sufferings. Um, and also, there might be other drugs. I don't know because probably you have to do more research and investigate, um, those things. So those are more kind of on. And then, I think as discussed on Friday, sometimes we also have. It's hard for me. I cannot say this is this or that, but like we talk about environmental conditional disease and karmic disease, and that, and sometimes in karmic disease, then you have to really work with the karma to change and transform the karma, and sometimes when we don't change that, sometimes even with the all different medication treatment, sometimes it might not be effective. So while you try to take whatever treatment, also working with our karmic potentials, the karmic seeds, through different practice, of um, um, and so that, and then continue to work with your mind, um, so I guess combining all of them, and that's all we do. We try. Um, if it doesn't work, then we try something else or accept it. That is what it is, and just being okay with that. And just like some people who have challenges, but they don't feel there is challenge because they have accepted that that's what there is, and they're okay with that. They're fine. From outside, they might feel they are experiencing, but they might not feel the way the outsider feel. You know, sometime in certain part of the countries, villages, you know, from the outsider, they feel pity for them. Oh, they are in such conditions, they must be suffering so much. But they don't feel that way so much. The way the outsider felt, pity on them, you know. They just have been used to it. They have just accepted this, that is normal for them. So it's not a problem for them. For someone who is not used to that, is a problem. And again, sometimes for some people, despite all these challenges, the physical challenges, and that they have to deal with every day. But some of them somehow they have learned to deal with that, and they have learned to accept that, and it doesn't make them so miserable. As I said, it's a physical discomfort. There's no doubt about that. That is real. That this physical pain, physical discomfort, that is real. But at the same time, that doesn't make that person so unhappy and so miserable despite all these challenges. And whereas we have others who have physically just good health, feel like there's nothing to complain, and maybe also in so many other ways they are doing so well, successful, but still feel so miserable about their life, so unhappy about life. And and that is the state of mind that we try to work on. Okay? Yes, please. Well, suppressing is you have that issue, and instead of trying to deal with that, sometimes we try to, what you call, pretend that we don't see or it's not there or it's not a problem, you know. That is kind of suppressing. But I think dealing with that is whatever emotions that we are dealing with the frustration or whatever, we allow it to arise, and then i- why am I frustrated? Trying to find the source of, and maybe we might have different reason why we feel frustrated or angry or whatever that emotion is, and then there might be some, we feel certain reasons why I'm frustrated, why I'm angry, and then doing analysis, is that really the good reason? Is this valid reason for me to get frustrated, me to get angry? And that through that kind of analyzing and through that kind of meditations, then we try to go into the root of the frustration or root of the anger, root of whatever you feel. And then through that, then when you go to the root of that and when you change the root of that, then there is no more arising of that emotions. And then that is not suppressing, that is dealing with that. Suppressing is, that you have the frustration or anger, but you don't try to look at it. You just try to run away from it. You just get try to distract it from that, you know, instead of fully dealing it. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to talk about it. You know, I don't want to go there. I don't want to think. I don't want to talk. That is suppressing. But actually, you actually think about it. You actually talk about it. You actually bring that, and then trying to go to the root of that, and then that will be not um, suppressing. And I think that is what the meditation is, not a suppressing. It shouldn't be a suppressing. Meditation should actually bring up those emotions and then go to the root of that emotions and then try to solve that, going by the very root from different by looking at it from different or understanding the that from different perspective, different angle, different way. Yeah. Okay. So then we do the dedications. Gyewa di nyudu da lama sangye dugyo ne dowa chi kyang ma lu ba de sa la kwe ba. So we dedicate all the virtues to achieve enlightenment and to liberate all sentient beings to that fully enlightened state. And then we also dedicate all the virtues for oneself and all sentient beings to actualize and fully develop the Bodhicitta mind, wisdom, realizing emptiness. And those who have already actualized, not to diminish, but increase more and more. Changjo, Semjo, Rinpoche, Magye, Pana, Kegyo, Che, Kewa, Nyamba, Mebaya, Konde, Kondo, Pewara, Sho. We also dedicate for the long life of His Holiness Dalai Lama and all our gurus and all their holy projects and wishes be fulfilled, and that may we always um, be under their spiritual guidance, care in this in future until we achieve fully enlightenment. Kanre rawe korwe shingam de pendang dewa malu jungwe ne chere sengwang tenzin gyatso ye shabe sete patu tenjo. We also dedicate for the swift return of Kyabje Lama Sabar Rinpoche so that we can continue to receive the teaching, guidance, instructions, and be guided until enlightenment. Tubjo Changse Jamguen Kyawe de Zinjong Pewe Kunso Toba Chokson Kuwe Lema Tudoba Dazo Duje Gwendo Nyuje Sho. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, you can do short. Yeah.